Hi, everybody. You made it to Wednesday, April 15th. And today we're going to do a review of Soapstone. Um, Forgive this, I'm doing some work on the house. Uh, this is clearly a different look for me for teaching the class. But we are going to review not only Soapstone, but also Soapstone statement for you this week, so that you can remember basically the tool that we use, Soapstone, to analyze any kind of writing that you're reading for the rhetorical analysis. But then we're also going to review how to write a soapstone statement, because that should be part of the introduction for your rhetorical analysis essay, timed right. And then today, I've got two things that I want you to do. I've posted another YouTube video about college application essays for you to watch. It's a really short one. I think it's like less than 3 minutes, just for your own information. And then I've also posted a assignment. It's like a test quiz, it says, at the end of this, that includes information about writing a soapstone for Claire Booth-Lucci's speech to the Women's National Press Agency. Anyway, so make sure that you do that. Also, you should still be working on writing your 500-word essay. It is due on Friday at 11:59 p.m. Okay, I am going to shrink myself down and go ahead and remind you about Soapstone. We're doing hot pink today for our color. So today's exam review is about Soapstone in general and also writing Soapstone statements. So first of all, our introduction paragraph of a rhetorical analysis essay should include basically three things. An attention getter, this is what I talked to you about yesterday. You want to think about what is the subject of this essay, and then write something that kind of like touches on that subject. I was discussing how the subject of this essay is journalism and the place of journalism in the world, and what journalists should and should not do. That's the subject. So you would want to write something about journalism and that as your attention getter, or like moving into your essay for the introduction. Then you want to make sure that you use a good transition into the soapstone statement. And remember, you're going to be writing a sentence that touches on the speaker, the occasion, the audience, the purpose, the subject, and you're going to preview the strategies that you're going to present within the essay. So it's a good idea to make sure you know which strategies you're going to be presenting before you write your soap statement. So again, do some pre-writing before you get going. Okay, so a review of Soapstone. The S in Soapstone stands for speaker. So in nonfiction writing, the speaker is typically the author, but not always. If we remember A Modest Proposal, Jonathan Swift was not the speaker. He was writing as someone else, which is typically what happens in satire. So if for some reason you get a satirical piece, make sure you say to yourself, is the author really the speaker of this essay, or is the speaker of the essay someone else that the author is writing like to mock or to kind of represent? Okay. Then you also want to think about what information or insight have you been given about that speaker. So kind of think about like, what does the speaker feel about the subject, or what side is the speaker on? Underline in that, especially in those little italics part that comes before the passage, what information you've been given about the speaker. In this case, we know that Claire Booth-Lucci was not only a journalist, but also a politician. So we know a little bit something about her. Remember, we usually say something about that person before we give their name. So in the essay, A Modest Proposal, famous satirist Jonathan Swift, blah, 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 blah. Okay. Next, occasion. You want to know the time period and the origin of the publication, what kind of publication it is, as well as the reason that it happened in the first place. So the prompt will give you some clues about the date. It'll also give you some clues about what type of writing it is, as well as the reason why she was asked to speak at that event. So for example, if you read the speech by Cesar Chavez, which I'll have you do a little bit later, gives you the occasion really clearly. So make sure that you are underlining the information you see in the prompt, that italics before the actual writing, so that you can kind of use that as part of your SOAP statement. The audience. The original intended audience is usually tied in with the occasion. Sometimes the audience is well known. So well-known examples, Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech. The original audience are the people who went to march on the March on Washington, where he was standing in front of the Washington Monument, and he was expressing why it was so important, and the occasion that it was. However, people all over the world have read Martin Luther King Jr.'s I Have a Dream speech, but it's important to know that it was a speech presented live in front of his original audience. That's important because we know that they were his supporters. They're the ones who marched with him. So we know he's speaking to people who agree with him. Think about Susan Booth Lucci's audience, and are they her supporters or not? Think about her and their position and how alike they are in their beliefs. Other audiences, you must be specific about the audience. So for example, you can't say speaks to all Americans. Even if you think that it would speak to anyone, never say that. Anyone would not be interested in all of the things that we've read. So for example, Susan Booth Lucci, her audience is extremely clear given in the prompt. But in other cases, the audience might not be as clear, like Martin Luther King Jr.'s speech. If you're not thinking original intended audience, you might say his audience of Americans. It's not an audience of Americans. It's an audience of the people who marched with him on that day. So you make sure you want to be specific about who the audience is. In order to do that, think about what people in the audience were interested in. All right, the purpose. So start with a more general purpose. Remember we talked about, and there's one missing from here. All writing has one or more of three purposes: to inform, to entertain, to persuade, to demonstrate is the fourth thing. But you're not going to probably have any kind of demonstration at all, unless it is a satirical piece and you believe the author is trying to demonstrate the state of mind of the speaker that he is trying to take the place of. Okay, so then you want to get specific. The purpose of the piece, blank, whatever the title is, by the author, blank, is to blank the audience about blank. The purpose of the piece, I Have a Dream, by author Martin Luther King Jr., is to persuade or is to inspire the audience that their marches together for the civil rights movement will eventually come to some sort of fruition, and equality is the thing that we will all get as a result of it. It is also attempting to persuade the audience that that they should continue in that cause. Okay, good writing often does all three, but you want to think about what's the key thing. I would say very frequently the rhetorical readings that we've read have been informative and persuasive. Sometimes they've been entertaining. So if we look at something coming from The Onion, for example, The Onion, its main goal is to entertain us, but it can also persuade us. Okay, subject, don't get fancy. It's like one word, all right? And try to explain why that's important and any other main ideas that you see as well. So when you are writing the body paragraph of your essay, you want to make note of anything cool that you see that the author is using, something different outside of the ordinary. So if you see repetition, if you see use of specific and really interesting punctuation, make sure you do that. And then make sure that you understand how the author uses it to support his purpose. Tone is always set by the strategies that the author uses. Okay, here it is. This is the soapstone statement. In his or her, and here's where you put the type of writing it is. Is it a letter, a speech, an essay, an article, a satirical piece? That's where you put the type, the genre. The next blank is where you put the title of it. In his speech, I Have a Dream. Here we put the author's name. And remember I said it's good to put it in a description. Political activist and former Christian pastor Martin Luther King Jr. uses or employs what are the 3 things or 2 things or 4 things that he uses within that speech to inform his or her audience of why they should how far they have come in their journey and how far they still need to go, about the journey of civil rights, the civil rights movement, the path that they are on, and how important equality is in America, in order to persuade them to keep working towards equality with him. Okay, so think about all those things. This is genre, title, description of author and author's name, the 3 or 4 or 2 techniques that you are going to be writing about, 2, inform, persuade, entertain, demonstrate his or her audience of, be specific right there. And then this is the purpose. And then this is probably the secondary purpose, and it's usually going to be persuasive. You can inform your audience about something in order to persuade them about something else. Okay, so tone. I will be putting up a link to this tone handout on Schoology, and it gives you some words that you can use to talk about tone, because tone is a strategy that authors are using that is usually something that you can explain like a little bit further. And so I've given you some tone words, negative tone words: angry, disgusted, outraged, accusing, inflammatory. What is the author's tone in the particular piece? And so you can explain how the author presents his tone as you're talking about the different rhetorical strategies that the author is using. Okay, so that will be up on Schoology for you. So if you write about diction, diction is about specific words or phrases that stand out, and diction has a really big tie to the tone that's used in the essay. So when you look at connotative diction, you can say the author uses connotative diction through the words X, 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 and X in order to display a tone of X about his topic and persuading the audience that X. Okay. Tone is usually created through imagery and vivid description. Tone can also be created through the detail and facts that the author uses to enforce the mood. And then the level of the language. Remember, we talked about formal diction or formal use of words, or elevated diction in order to make someone appear more intellectual. Then you can also establish syntax, tone through syntax, which is the length and the style and the organization of your sentences. Other ideas for rhetorical analysis. Looking for shifts in the piece is really important, because in your writing, when you're writing about the essay, you want to say the author shifted from this to this. It could be a tone shift. It could be a topic shift. It could be a tense shift, moving from one time to another topic, moving to a new idea. Or it could be a tone, moving from something where the author is apologetic in tone to where an author is more angry or persuasive in tone. All right. And then more things to remember. Remember, you're looking for reasoning, patterns of development, compare, contrast, problem, solution, cause and effect, deductive or inductive reasoning, classification or division. Check your rhetorical terms to remind yourself. Those are also things you should look for. Okay. So hopefully that gives you a little reminder of the soapstone. I am not, absolutely not going to place this up on Schoology. So I want you to, it would probably do you wise to pause this video here on a piece of paper, establish your soapstone statement first before you go to Schoology and try to complete the assignment on writing a soapstone statement for Claire Booth-Lucci's actual essay, speech. So it'd be a good idea for you to do that right now and pause that. Okay, so going over small assignment today, soapstone statement. It's on the bottom underneath all of the videos and everything like that. You'll see the assignment, and that is due 11:59 tonight. Tomorrow, I will be talking a little bit more about rhetorical analysis, and I'm going to introduce a new reading to you. that we're going to kind of read over together, but you will not have an assignment other than to annotate that reading, okay, or to take notes on it on a separate piece of paper, okay? And then otherwise, I want you to then tomorrow to work on your 500-word essay so that you can get that in on Friday. Friday is going to be all about college applications and like the next step after you finish major paper 4. So the reading that I'm going to introduce tomorrow, we're going to use all next week to do a review of rhetorical analysis. Okay? Okay. Well, I hope everybody is doing well, and I hope I get to see you soon, but it looks really bad. Okay, take care. Bye.